Hey guys, welcome back to the read-along of the Cyborg Tinkerer by Meg LaTorre. I did manage a whole 2 chapters over the weekend, so let's talk about those. We get the first chapter of somebody else's perspective, so we're now with Rora, one of the acrobats of the Cirque du Borg. Italics are overused. I'm only in chapter 3 and they already annoy me. Like somebody is swearing at her for jumping the queue and goes with fucking acrobats. And for some reason this has to be in italics. I don't understand. I feel like an exclamation mark at the end would have told you the same thing. Now there's more about the spaceships that makes little sense to me. So before they were on a moon, right? So they had a gravitational field and artificial gravity. And now they're back on a planet which has fresh water, fresh air. And the ships apparently dock on open waters like the ancients, when travel was limited to sailing over the seas. I don't think dumping your spaceship in water for docking is a good idea. I mean, I'm no astrophysicist, but that seems unwise. Hi, Cleo. You're here to cuddle the book. You approve of the book. Well, you certainly like headbutting it. There's some clunky introduction of characters. For some reason they're rolling a wardrobe along the dock, which is fine, but then Rora thinks about them. Like, Mazana had once been a man named Jared, but her gender and sexuality were as fluid as the waters beneath them. Over time she'd taken on a new name. Why would you think this about a close friend of yours? I mean, have you ever looked at one of your friends and gone like, oh, yeah, Karen, the one with blonde hair who used to do yoga but now has moved on to, I don't know, K-pop dancing. Who cares? Something like that. Like, you don't think that way about your friends, do you? There's some very random redundancy in here. As ever, the paid mercenaries. Well, yes, if they are mercenaries, then I would assume that you paid them, because otherwise they wouldn't be lifting a finger for you, would they? And because Rora mentions the cyborg animals when she walks, or rather when she sees them, I have to wonder, how does this work with their surgery? Because last chapter we learned that you have to be fully awake for the chip to be implanted, and they just strapped Gwen down to do that. You're doing the same thing on an animal? Like you try to strap down, say, a lion to give him cyborg parts? I don't see any version of this that goes well. And then we learn that, unlike traditional Union cities, this one's centered around the needs of Cirque du Borg. So despite the fact that this circus is illegal, they virtually have their own town. That seems very strange to me. Like, in general, the idea that the circus would need a whole town to work, although I'm not quite sure about the scale of the circus, to be fair. But then again, if you have to keep it hidden from the authorities, it can't be massive, can it? I don't know. Things don't add up for me in this. I do like how this gets dangled in front of us. Had there been another dragon attack recently? Also, we do have fantasy creatures in this as well. I hope we get to see them. And I wonder whether they are an alien species? Because apparently the Union has hunted down most of them, and then humanitarians and wildlife specialists had fought against their extinction, so they just collected all of those dragons and dumped them on this planet instead? Like, this seems to be a perfectly livable planet for humans, so why would you collect dragons from another livable planet and drop them on this one? assume for a second that these wildlife organizations and humanitarians actually have enough pull to convince the Union, who seems to be a bit of a dictatorship. But let's say they have enough pull to convince people not to kill all the dragons and just put them in a wildlife park of sorts. I don't see why you would give up a habitable planet for humans. I don't know how dragons work. Maybe they need the same conditions as us, but, you know. It doesn't seem very logical to me, all in all. That's all I'm saying. And then, again, italics. The bit where she asks herself that there had been another dragon attack. Why is this in italics in the first place? We are already in her head. We are already seeing her thoughts. It's vexing. I feel like I actually should add some of the positives as well, because I keep bitching about like sometimes smaller things, sometimes bigger things, but I think the description of the area and the city as a whole is pretty okay. But then Rora sees Gwen for the first time. Even shadows, as it was, the woman's gaze seemed to mask a deeper darkness. It's just like, ugh. Ugh. Yeah, maybe she's just squinting, or I don't know, whatever. But yeah, this first look attraction or mystique is really not doing it for me. I mean, attraction at one look, okay, but the way it is described, it's like, oh, no, just keep your deeper darkness over there, it's fine. And then literally on the next page, again, Rora sensed the deeper darkness in the Tinkerer's hardened gaze, and she couldn't help but wonder just what hardships those eyes had seen. Well, at a wild guess, I would say she's traumatized from her surgery, for one. Rora goes from, oh, what a mysterious person, straight to desire tingled between her legs so strongly she breathed in sharply. Okay. Yeah, I can't say I've ever felt that way about anybody, but okay. Then I have to say that Rora doesn't strike me as the most intelligent of people. Like, mercenaries are blocking the doors after all of the performers have been called onto the theater because they seem to be living in a castle. As you do. Also, why is there a castle on a different planet in the first place? Did some eccentric come along and think, oh yeah, there's space here and I really want to go old school. Let me build a castle, and now the circus is living in it for some reason. But that aside, they all get caught into the theater and the mercenaries start blocking the door. And Rora's like, what the hell was going on? Was the mistress trying to prevent people from leaving? Yeah, that's usually what guards at the door do, but cool. But once again, we are in her thoughts and there are no italics in this one, so, yeah. Screw italics. They are unnecessary in most places. And then the mistress, who seems to be running the circus ahead of the lord we met last chapter, has interesting news. There will be a competition of sorts because the emperor has invited the circus to sway people that cyborgs are not all that bad after all. Which seems very weird if he was the one who led the charge and outlawed most of their implants and associating with them, then why would he suddenly want them around? Yeah, it gives you a brief insight into how the emperor, Titus Valerius, because we have to go full Roman or something, how he capitalized on humankind's fears and had united all of the warring states against their new enemy, cyborgs. What exactly have cyborgs at large done that this worked? I don't know what these people were at war over, but I mean, a common enemy might work, yes, but I would need more information to see why this would have actually worked. Oh yeah. Apparently the propaganda says that cyborgs are nothing but super soldiers that can be controlled by terrorists and used against the good people of the Union. Uh-huh. Yeah, sure. That's how implants work. But then again, last chapter we've been told that all of your memories vanish after a while when you had an implant. And you have to wonder, I mean, it doesn't turn you into a super soldier, no, but if you take away somebody's memories, then to what degree does it affect their behavior? Because it definitely does, but does it automatically turn them into a danger to society? No. But it will have an effect on personality and behavior. Anyway, the mistress announces a competition that only the best performers will get to go to this meeting with the emperor. And then when she's done announcing this, the guards just step away from the door again, and I was like, why were these people locked up in the first place? That makes no sense. It's like having a town hall meeting at your office and people need to lock the doors behind you so nobody can miss out on this wonderful announcement. It's like, this is fucking weird. Anyway, Rora has noticed Gwen, and for some reason her clothes instantly give her away as the new Tinkerer. And slowly an idea crystallized in her mind, an idea surrounding the beautiful new Tinkerer. Okay, so you have a couple of days, it seems, to prepare for this competition or to start practicing, and then convince the mistress that you're the one who should go and see the emperor. But then upgrading your prosthetics or your implants, I know, unless it works within a day and you can just get going, I don't know. But her plan is, I guess, to seduce Gwen and get better parts for her implants. And you're going to do it in a couple of days. You're going to throw yourself at Gwen, instantly get the good parts, and then run off with your new improved parts to win a place in that. Like I said, she doesn't strike me as the brightest, and I think this idea speaks to that as well. Also, why would you assume that Gwen, who is clearly very new on the ship, has access to all the best parts or can even do what you just wished she could? This also begs the question, why would she turn to Gwen? Somebody did the surgery on Gwen on this ship, so clearly they have a surgeon and tinkerer already who is actually equipped to do these things, unlike Gwen, who has worked on ships and stuff. Which is also what she tells you in chapter 4, that she has no experience working on cyborg implants. And yet here she was, poking at things best left to far more capable hands. Better yet, a doctor who was also an engineer. Even that would be a better qualification than a ship tinkerer. And the ship already has at least one of these people on board because somebody did the surgery on Gwen. Gwen's implant is now working. A couple of weeks have passed. You can still tell from her shaved head that this is relatively fresh surgery, but she's getting used to her new eye and the X-ray vision that comes with the artificial eye. And she's working on her first patient, an acrobat who smashed one of his thumb joints on his artificial arm. And then she takes off this bit, but, running her fingers over his wrist where the robotic arm connected to flesh, which she could quickly identify thanks to her cyborg eye. If it is metal attached to flesh, then I don't think you need X-ray vision to figure out where this attaches. But, I don't know, maybe I have a very simplified understanding of what this looks like, and, But Gwen is making use of her X-ray vision. It still seems to be a bit disorienting. But, that's to be expected, I would say. And the more time I spend with Gwen, I think the less I like her, to be honest. She is swearing an awful lot. Like, it's the first page of this, and there are already 2 fucks on there. Or, sorry, fucking. And apparently she's very tense after her surgery, and she can't decide whether she just wants to pick a fight or whether she needs a good fuck. I don't know. Personally, I would say these 2 emotions or needs are easily distinguishable. At least for me they are, but okay. Yeah, she once again tells you that she is not qualified to be a cyborg tinkerer, which also Makes me wonder, why did this Lord want her on the ship in the first place? Like, unless he wanted her to fix the ship, but apparently she's supposed to be fixing cyborgs. And once again, they already have a surgeon on the ship who should be way better qualified for this. I promise I will stop pointing it out after this one, but the overuse of italics. Apparently he took his role as ringleader very seriously. I'm starting to hate italics. And despite the fact that Gwen watches the ringleader, Bastion, go around the theater and shouting at people and genuinely being the kind of boss you wouldn't wish on anybody, she notes just how attractive he is and how she wouldn't push him out of bed. And yeah, cool, that's exactly the emotion a overly aggressive and not well-behaved boss should have on you. Well, they have this conversation during which it's pretty clear that he's a shit boss and she's a shit employee, because he's just shouty and rude and she's snarky, and if I wasn't in her head already, I would think that he at this moment is thinking, why did I employ this bitch? And she's thinking, why did I sign a contract with this asshat? Anyway, she gives him some snark and something flashes in his eyes. It could be anger or it could be fear. It's like, why would he fear this? Why would he feel fear in this moment? I don't understand. Anger, that seems very reasonable, given the behavior we've seen from him before this, but fear? What would he fear from her? And then it turns out that some of the reference books Gwen has in her office are a bit outdated. They're like 20 years old. Because the newest developments in chip implants have happened over the past 10 years, which makes me wonder, they've been outlawed for like 10 years more or less, so who made those discoveries when and how did they get shared in the first place if it's so hush-hush? There are a couple of instances with odd phrasing or unfortunate structure, I guess. This one, still it had cooled her anger somewhat, even though anxiety still churned in her stomach. The two stills in the sentence are literally on top of each other. And it's not the only instance in this chapter that I circled where I was like, different structure would have maybe been good, or just cutting out filler words. And then the guy that swore at Rora in the last chapter comes by to try and sweet-talk his way into Gwen's favors or whatever, and it's just like, blech. He gives her a rose and fondles her hair or something, and it's just like, yeah, can you just get lost? You know, he knows her for maybe 2 minutes when he tucks her hair behind her ear, and I'm just like, no, just keep your paws to yourself. And then this part I totally didn't get. Like, he makes it clear to her that it would be favorable for her to be friends with him as well. And he leaves and goes back into the theater where all the acrobats and performers are practicing. Gwen looks after him, and for some reason her thought is his own personal army. How are the other performers his army? Even if he was friends with most of them, that wouldn't turn him into an army. That wouldn't mean that they go charge just because he says so. I don't get where Gwen's thought for this is coming from at all. Yeah, that was 2 chapters. One not so intelligent character that is at least a bit more likable so far than Gwen. A lot of swearing that once again makes her look a lot more immature than she's supposed to be. And a couple of questions about the world building. I might just be missing the info still, or there are just a couple of logic holes in there. I can't say for certain yet. And yes, we are headed towards a competition of sorts, so let's see how that shakes out. Since I don't want these videos to end up being overly long, I guess I will go 2 chapters at a time and try to cut this down from nearly 30 minutes. Okay, half of that is rambling, so that's fine. Thank you guys for watching. If you've read the Cyborg Tinkerer, please feel free to tell me what you make of it. in the comments. Like and subscribe if you want to help this channel out, and I'll be back next week with another video. Bye guys!